And we are live. You already know who it is. My name is Mike Kyle, aka the Fantasy Vulture. I have over a decade worth of fantasy football experience, and I've continuously competed for fantasy championships over the course of the past 6 seasons. Let's make it 7 in 2020. But enough of me. I'm here for you on today's episode of the FB Show. It's not even like today's episode, because today on Saturday I'm releasing, let's do the math here, 15 videos breaking down every single week 1 matchup. In this video in particular, we are going to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Washington football team. So if you are excited about that, be sure to hit that like button down below like an open receiver downfield, Patrick Mahomes style, and also smash that subscribe button down below like a power running back up the middle like Derrick Henry. And also you can follow me on all social media at FF Vulture. That's Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. I love Twitter. I'm going to say that time and time again. That is the place to interact with me. My DMs are on at every single platform. So if you have any last minute questions or advice, hit me up there. I will be sure to get back to you. And I think that's kind of it. Also, the website is ffvulture.com. And if you're listening to the podcast, first off, thank you. Secondly, please feel free to drop me a review. It would be greatly appreciated. So let's just dive right in to the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Washington football team. So let's go over some quick game notes, right? We got the paper here. Let's dive in, shall we? So the over/under for this game is 42.5. Like, that's pretty meh. Like, that's fine. It's not great or anything. It's actually a little bit on the lower side for all things considered for the week. Jalen Reagor, rookie wide receiver for the Eagles, is questionable with a shoulder injury. If you guys recall, about literally a week and a half ago, he separated his shoulder. It was rumored that he'd missed the first few games of the season, but somehow, someway, he's questionable for week 1. More on him in just a little bit. Alshon Jeffrey is still listed as questionable with that foot injury. I personally don't think he's going to play. And Miles Sanders has been limited for the past few weeks in training camp. With that hamstring injury, he is questionable. There's also some talk coming out of, if he is active, how much of the workload is he actually going to get. As far as the Washington side of the ball goes, there's no injuries to report on there, so we are all fine and dandy. So let's get into the game, shall we? Philadelphia, this is pretty simple. The auto starts are Carson Wentz, Miles Sanders if he plays. I think the thing about Sanders is that you really have to, if he does play and it comes out, hey, like, let's say, I think it's a 1 o'clock game, so it'd come out around 11:45. So if it comes out at, let's just say 11:30, and it says Miles Sanders is active, I think you have to start him because you did draft him in the first round or early second round of your draft. So I think you have to start him, but you do have to temper your expectations just a little bit and realize, hey, you're not going to get the workload that we were fully expecting to see Sanders get coming into this season. So just kind of lower your expectations just a little bit, especially if this is, you know, remember, the way that this injury was described early on was a lower body injury. They were being really coy about what exactly it was. And over time, the details have evolved, but he's still been limited pretty much for the past 3 weeks, and that's just really concerning for a guy whose expectations were so high coming into the season. So I'm still starting Sanders. I'm just lowering my bar for him this week, even though this Washington matchup should be a pretty good one for him. And then also the auto start is Zach Ertz, just because if this receiving core is decimated, if Reagor doesn't suit up, if Alshon doesn't suit up, you're obviously starting Zach Ertz. You drafted him in the 4th or 5th round of your draft. You're going to start him at tight end. Are there any auto starts for Washington? I say no, and the reason for that, let me actually clear this. I say no, and the reason for that is just because I don't know. Well, maybe that's a lie. Is Terry McLaurin the auto start? Like, are you automatically starting Terry McLaurin? I would say probably, right, because I actually have McLaurin listed as likely starting. So you're likely starting McLaurin, and that's just simply because where you drafted him in that 5th, 6th round, he might be your number 3 option, and that's a great 3rd option to have, but maybe you also have a 3rd great running back who you'd start over instead. That's just why I have the caveat of you're likely starting him, but you may have a better option. But that being said, this game could easily turn into a game where Philadelphia just steamrolls early on, and if that is the case, then McLaurin could see some garbage time points, and As we saw with Will Fuller, garbage time points counts the same, whether it's the first quarter or the fourth quarter. So you are likely starting McLaurin. I think he's still going to be a great start for you this week. The smash play of the week, I actually removed him from this conversation, or from my smash play consideration for somebody else. But regardless, Desean Jackson. If you got Will Fuller or Clyde Edwards-Helaire or David Johnson, where you had it, where your opponent had one of those guys, and you feel like you need a desperation swing for the fences play to kind of even the score up just a little bit, Desean Jackson could be that guy for you. Again, this receiving core is decimated. He's literally going to be the exact carbon copy of what we just saw from Will Fuller, ironically enough. Are you starting Jalen Reagor? If he is active, the answer should be no. I get it might be intriguing, but this is a guy who might have limited mobility, a limited catch radius because of that shoulder injury. Guys, like, he literally, like, separated his shoulder. Like, his shoulder was out of the socket. He was holding his arm like this, coming off the practice field. It was not good. And here he is, a week and a half later, going to play in his first NFL game. Look, I get the intrigue because of all the hype and the buzz about Reagor this offseason. I don't think there's a chance in hell I'm starting him week 1 if he's active. No way. I'd rather take my shot elsewhere. Now, the biggest storyline that I have for this game, and this is the dilemma that I'm facing in both leagues that I'm in. What on earth do you do with Antonio Gibson? For me personally, and honestly, like, this all comes down to where you drafted him. If you drafted him late and you drafted him in that 10th round territory or way in towards the back half of your draft, then you have other options. Like, you do not have to play Antonio Gibson. That said, if you had a later draft post the Adrian Peterson release, you might have drafted Antonio Gibson in that 5th, 6th round where he literally is your 3rd running back, or maybe even your 2nd running back if you went wide receiver heavy. And in that case, you almost have to start him. This is really just a matter of where did you get Gibson in your draft and what other options do you have. For me, I'm fortunate enough where I don't feel like I have to roll the dice on the rookie during week 1. And that's really a spot where I want to be in during this week. This is the thing that you're going to hear me say in a lot of these week 1 previews. Start your studs. The thing about week 1, it's the hardest to predict. It's the hardest to analyze what it's going to happen. It's the hardest thing to just wrap your head around, right? New season, new hype, new players, new teams. There's so many different factors. No one knows what's actually going to happen. So for me, it's start your studs, right? You're going to start your best team possible and not your best lineup possible because simply we don't have the data to go through and back up our decisions. So for me, start your best players. I don't think Antonio Gibson should be in that list. Not quite yet. So, yeah, let's see. I think that's really it, honestly. Ooh. Oh, this is nice. For the first preview, and we are under 10 minutes, so here's the thing, right? I was torn for pretty much the past day or so. Am I going to just make one giant hour and a half long preview, or am I just going to chop these up into little segments and then post them individually? I'm kind of glad I took this route. Are there anything else about Washington? Let's see. We covered Terry McLaurin. You're likely starting him. Your quarterback situation, you're not playing Dwayne Haskins. You're not starting a Washington wide receiver. Are you playing Antonio Gibson? Like, that really is a personal preference. Again, I lean the side on don't, and that's simply just because I'm fortunate enough to have the flexibility, and I'm sure a lot of you are as well, because a lot of the drafts were taking place just before that Peterson release. So maybe you do have that luxury, but other than that, I'm kind of just staying away, and I'm really staying away from the majority of rookies. Speaking of rookies again, let's just talk about Jalen Reagor, recap that. I'm not playing Reagor, doesn't matter if he's active or not. Obviously, if he's not active, I'm not going to play him. But even if he is active, I'm not going to take the shot on a rookie who's seeing his first NFL game action and coming off of a separated shoulder just a week and a half ago. No, thank you. You're starting Carson Wentz just because this could be a game easily where he throws for 250 and 3. Miles Sanders, just lower your expectations a little bit. D-Jax if you need that swing for the fence play. And, of course, you're starting Zach Ertz. So I think that's going to do it for my Philadelphia Eagles versus the Washington football team Week 1 preview. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. We are doing this literally for every single game for Week 1. And I'm going to try and swing for something after the games Sunday night / Monday. So be sure to stick around for that. Once again, hit that like button. If you're listening to the podcast, thank you very much. Be sure to drop us a review over there. And you can follow me on all social media platforms at FFVulture. That's Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And finally, the website is ffvulture.com. Remember, people come and go, but fantasy championships are forever. I will see you next time.